Welcome back, everyone. I heard that the breakouts were pretty amazing, so I'm sure you all have many golden takeaways from it. I want to welcome you to our closing plenary, a conversation with the CDFI Fund about new initiatives. And Crystal Langholtz will be moderating this conversation, and I will turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. What a joy it was to spend the day with you all. And what a joy it is to close out the day strong with one of my favorite parts of the CDFI Fund. Is always such a joy and honor to have them join our capital access convenings and to get a chance to sort of talk with our mothership a little bit. So such a joy. The flow of this session is we're going to get to hear from Jody Harris, who is the director of the CDFI Fund for a little bit, and she'll be sharing a little bit about sort of new initiatives, what's going on, giving us a sense of what's going on in their world. And then we're actually going to build in a lot of time for question and answer. So for those of you, when you're in an attendee hub right now, you see you've got that chat up in the right corner. You've also got that Q&A. So we're going to use that a lot. And so definitely join the chat function, get yourself ready for a lot of opportunity to kind of connect with the CDFI Fund directly. And with that, I'd like to introduce Jody. Jody Harris is the director of the CDFI Fund. They, of course, generate economic growth opportunity for communities such as our Native communities that we work with. And she has been with the CDFI Fund for a long time, been supporting the work that we do as community lenders for a long time. So we're really happy to have her today to share more about what's going on as we look at new administrations, as we look at some really amazing new efforts, as we celebrate the RRP programs. There's a lot to talk about there, and so I will turn it over to Jody.
Thank you, Crystal. It's great to see you. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you to Oweesta, to the entire team for inviting the CDFI Fund to be with you all this afternoon. The CDFI Fund has always appreciated the opportunity to connect with Oweesta and learn about the support that you continue to facilitate to drive economic opportunity to Native communities across the country. So we're really happy to participate virtually this year. I also want to mention, as Crystal did, that I'll be joined in a couple minutes by Amber Kuhar-Bell, who is our program manager for the CDFI and NACA program, as well as Clint Hastings, who's our associate program manager on Amber's team, but he handles Native initiatives across the fund. I've been asked to provide an overview of the CDFI Fund, and there's a lot to cover this year. So I'll provide a high-level overview, but then try and leave most of my time for questions. We want to hear from you and be able to answer as much as we can in our time together. Needless to say, 2021 has been a very busy year for the CDFI Fund. We are experiencing a presidential transition that's still very much in progress. Many of you may know that we have a new Deputy Assistant Secretary, Noel Pollo, who is very familiar with the CDFI industry as he led a CDFI before joining Treasury. So we're very fortunate to have him and his expertise join the team. The transitioning, though, is happening during a time when the focus on CDFIs and specifically the CDFI Fund is really intense and really strong. So we are appreciating all of the support. Within the administration, CDFIs and the CDFI Fund are taking on a higher level priority, arguably more than since the fund's creation more than 25 years ago. This is evidenced by the level of attention that the Vice President has paid to CDFIs across the country, as well as the role that CDFIs will play in the administration's policy initiatives. And for those of you who missed it, the focus of the Vice President's office was demonstrated last Tuesday when both the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Vice President Kamala Harris participated in a joint event to announce our CDFI Rapid Response Program Awards. The CDFI Rapid Response Program Awards were the $1.25 billion that was appropriated through the Omnibus Act late December. We gave out $1.25 billion to 863 CDFIs across the country. In total, more than 70% of all CDFIs submitted an application for an RRP award, requesting a total of $2.9 billion in funding. I'm happy to say in the RRP recipients, there were 58 Native CDFIs, and they received a total of $54.6 million in awards, of which roughly 1/3 received the maximum award of $1.8. I want to take some time to also talk about the rapid nature. We deemed it rapid because it was responding to the economic crisis, and the CDFI Fund staff did an amazing job. For those of you who apply to our regular programs, did an amazing job of getting the funds out the door in half the time. And we can speak more about that in the Q&A, but it was definitely rapid on our end, and we'll have the funds out to the CDFIs as soon as possible so you all can meet the needs in your communities. These awards will provide the CDFIs with unprecedented levels of flexible capital and will allow you to help businesses keep their doors open, help families make ends meet, and help maintain important community facilities during this difficult time. And we know that the CDFI community will be able to accomplish a lot with these resources. And while things are improving in some parts of the country, we also know there are certain parts of the country, communities that you work with every day that are still feeling the impact of the economic shocks from the pandemic. And so we're hoping that this quick infusion of capital will allow you to address some of those concerns. The recovery legislation that was passed in December also provided an additional $1.75 billion to deliver recovery resources to CDFIs to expand financial activity in distressed minority communities and to minorities that have significant unmet capital for financial service needs. It'll take us a while to allocate these funds. There's a substantial work that needs to be done to develop the policies, procedures, and systems necessary to appropriately structure a funding blueprint, as well as develop the accountability standards and then designate CDFIs that meet a new term that was introduced in the legislation as a minority lending institution. Treasury leadership is following our efforts on this specific area with much interest, and we'll be working closely with them to put their imprint, meaning the administration's focus, into this program. In addition, this will likely have substantial implications for our efforts in updating the CDFI certification and reporting requirements, because we will have this new designation and we will see an influx of CDFIs who will need to be recertified and new groups who will likely want to come in for certification. So I'll give a little bit of an update on certification. I know since I became director, this has been a high priority for the fund, and I've mentioned it several times. And so I'll give you a quick update on where we are with that process. We're continuing to examine the certification policy as well as the tests that we apply to entities that want to be recognized as a CDFI. And efforts on part of Congress and the new administration in elevating the role of CDFIs to spur economic recovery and empowerment have served to reinforce our decision to re-examine these tests and validations. Last year, as you know, we released the comment for a revised certification application, annual certification and data collection report, also known as the ACR, and a new certification transaction level report. Those comments were due in November of last year. We received 50 unique comment letters, and so we're still in the process of reviewing and adjudicating those comments. You also remember, as part of those revisions, we proposed changes to the Native CDFI designation, which is currently a self-designation. We proposed a more formal verification of CDFI activity in Native communities to track that at least 50% of an organization's financial activity has occurred in a Native community, as well as defining representation requirements. We received some really great comments, and we appreciate that a balance needs to be struck between minimizing burden and maximizing impact while maintaining the integrity of the CDFI designation. So we're working to find that sweet spot as we wrestle with what it means to be a CDFI, as well as how to capture this through our certification application. So stay tuned for more information on that. We always take comments. So if Oweesta or any other CDFIs on the call want to be in touch with additional thoughts, we welcome those thoughts and we'll continue to review. But right now we're in the final stages of looking at comments, and we will be working through the application process over the next few months. We don't anticipate publicly deploying a new certification application, ACR, or certification TLR until sometime in 2022. So in the meantime, please follow the existing certification process as well as the annual recertification procedure. All of that remains in effect. Lastly, I'll give some quick program updates, and then we can move to Q&A with Amber and Clint. As some of you may have seen, we opened up the inaugural round of the small dollar loan program. We have a total of $13.5 million that's being made available through this round, and these funds can be used for technical assistance and to create a loan loss reserve for small dollar loan programs. The deadline to submit is a week away on June 29th, and we'll announce those awards in September. With regards to the Capital Magnet Fund, in February, we announced over $175 million in CMF awards. That was the largest amount ever awarded under the program. However, this summer, we expect to open CMF application with more than double that amount, roughly $380 million. In addition, if you saw the president's budget that was released a few weeks ago, the administration is proposing to expand CMF to $12 billion as part of the American Jobs Plan. This would be $12 billion over 5 years. So we hope to have more information on that fairly soon. For the New Markets Tax Credit Program, we're looking forward to announcing the $5 billion allocation later this summer. This will be the first allocations we have made at this increased authorization level. In addition, we're looking at launching a Native New Markets initiative that we hope to unveil later this year. So to support this initiative, we recently published a request for information to secure a contractor to perform preliminary research and analysis, to plan, coordinate, and administer a survey, to develop a self-assessment guide, and to plan, coordinate, and facilitate technical workshops. Some of you may remember a few years ago when we did something similar for minority CDEs. So this is modeled in theory off of that training, but we will specifically be working with groups to develop something for Native CDEs. And lastly, the Financial Assistance and Technical Assistance Awards, which Amber can speak to in more detail. It's expected that the TA awards and the financial awards will be announced separately. We did something similar back in 2019 after the government shutdown. The CDFI Fund will announce the TA awards in September, and the FA awards will be announced later in the fall. This was mainly to accommodate the increased staff time needed to finalize RRP, as Amber's team really shepherded the RRP program and did the lion's share of work to make sure that that funding got out the door in such a timely fashion. So thanks again to Amber and her team. It requires us to do a little shifting, but I think we'll be able to accommodate, and you all will be able to have access to multiple rounds of funding during this calendar year. So I'll stop there. And Amber and Clint, we're happy to answer any questions. They'll pop on, you'll see their friendly faces, and we can have a conversation. Great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jody. What a great overview. And we're so excited to have the opportunity to sort of ask these wonderful people some questions here. For those of you, I mean, I almost feel like introductions aren't necessary with Amber and Clint, but because you know, every time we have a problem, I'm always like, call Clint. So it's good. But Amber Kuhar-Bell is the CDFI and NACA program manager with the CDFI Fund. And before that, she was an investment officer for the Calvert Foundation. And so she's been in the CDFI space, supporting CDFIs a long time. And so we're just really happy to have her here. And then Clint is a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, and he's the associate program manager for Native Initiatives. And what a joy he is, blessing to all of us. Every time we run into any question a CDFI reaches out to us, we say, call Clint, he'll take care of you. He's got your back. So thanks for joining, Jody, and for joining this conversation. I know that there's probably been some questions coming into the chat, but now is the time to go ahead and make sure that you get the chance to ask those questions at the CDFI Fund. Light up our chat boards, light up the Q&A portion here for us all. And we will really look forward to hearing about some of those. Great. So they're already starting to come in. I love that. And Jody, you had alluded to this earlier. You started to talk about expected changes in the certification process and sort of how we were going to be doing some more evaluation around serving Native clients and those sorts of things. Could you talk a little bit more about those expected changes in the certification process?
Sure. It's a great question. We've been talking about certification for a number of years. The request for comment that we issued was a bit of a preview of our line of thinking of the changes that we wanted to make. We really are trying to focus on putting more teeth around the CDFI certification. We want to make sure that CDFIs, that their mission aligns with their products and that they are accountable to their communities. So a couple of the big changes we're focused on is, one, making it easier for CDFIs to do the work that they do, making it easier for you all to span across geographies and eliminate any burdensome requirements in terms of designating particular geographies. If you're providing certain communities with products and services, you should be able to do that across the country and give credit for that. So we're working to eliminate some of the geographic boundaries that have hindered the work of CDFIs and also limited some of the online presence that I think CDFIs have adopted. Well, now with technology, we're able to serve people all over. And so by restricting CDFIs to certain maps, for lack of a better word, because that's exactly what we use, it does seem to challenge the ability to use online platforms to spread out and go across different communities. The other big change that we're looking at is in terms of evaluating financial products. So we're not a regulator and we're not going to pretend to be, but we are going to look at the products that you're issuing and providing to your community and make sure that it aligns with your mission of community and economic development. And there will be some questions that look at certain practices to determine if those products are meeting the mission of community economic development. For example, we're considering looking at interest rates. We got a lot of good feedback there. We're considering looking at loans that mirror some of the predatory lending products that we've seen. So no hard decisions yet on what those characteristics will be, but we will be collecting data on that. And then the third place I'll mention in the test is the accountability. We want to make sure that the governing boards and the advisory boards are truly serving CDFIs and also being accountable to the community. So we propose some changes in the makeup of the ratios and the split between advisory and governing. We just want to make sure that the community has a place in the governance of a CDFI, providing regular impact and being able to influence, or at least I should say contribute to the design and development of the community needs.
Yeah, that all makes tons of sense. Yeah, and I think we'll look forward to seeing more of how that evolves for sure. I have a question as somebody who gets to help a lot of CDFIs with their FA and TA applications. I'm curious if there are any expected changes coming down to those applications through the pike, or whether we see those applications sort of staying consistent and what might be happening with some of those programs.
Yeah, I can take that. So, you know, as everybody knows, we went through a pretty extensive revamp of the application process in 2017. Received really good feedback. We again went out for PRA in 2019 to address the re-up of the PRA, or the Paperwork Reduction Act, and get extensive feedback. So indicating that you are still happy with the current application. That plenary cycle will end in 2023. And so we will now go out for another Paperwork Reduction Act feedback, probably sometime next calendar year, in preparation for the renewal cycle. But given that we have received positive feedback, people are developing systems around the current application, and we do not have any intentions on changing things based on our customer feedback. But another chance to give us more feedback on that in the next cycle.
Okay. Yeah, we still love that TA application. So nice and so streamlined. So okay, well, great. That's good to know. We'll look forward to giving what small feedback we have then in the next couple of years, but nothing drastic changing, sounds like. And then there's a new question that's come in. When will a new CDFI Fund strategic plan be available?
Yeah, thanks for that, Gary. I'm looking in the chat and I'm wondering if Gary was listening in on my staff meeting this morning. This actually came up as a topic for what we're starting to plan for the new strategic plan. So we, this year kind of threw us off of some of our strategic priorities, the RRP and some of the other stimulus activities. You know, we had to kind of shift focus, and Amber's team did most of the shifting to accommodate that. But we are looking at a new strategic plan, at least thinking about those initial conversations. We have some groups within Treasury that we need to engage. And so hopefully, because our last year is 2022, we will be working through the strategic plan over the next few months into the fiscal year. But by the end of 2022, we'll have another 5-year plan. In 3 to 5 years, we'll see how it shapes out once we start having our planning sessions.
Okay. Do you have any sense at all of like what might be popping up or themes that might be resonating as you go into that next strategic plan sessions, or still too fresh, too new to even sort of?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question, Crystal, because there's a new landscape for us. And so I think we definitely will need to take a lot of time to think about what the priorities of the fund should be. We have to look at resources, which has come up a lot, not just resources that we deploy to the industry, but also our internal resources and our capacity. There's a few items that I mentioned that have been put on hold. And so I think we're going to go back to those and dust that off. I think data is still a high priority, and making sure that we're being thoughtful about what we collect, but also making sure that the industry can look to us for a source of data and information. I think our conversations and recent focus on making sure that all programs are inclusive of all types of CDFIs is a focus. You know, just starting these conversations on Native initiatives when it looks for new markets is something that I think will continue to come up, as we're making sure that all of our CDFIs can participate to the best of their ability. So I think the timing is right for that. And so we're starting to look now, but I can see that being a part of our strategic plan as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jody. And we did get another question come in. Do we see any further technical assistance initiatives such as BNCSI coming for Native CDFIs? Love those technical assistance initiatives here at Oweesta.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to, you know, the work that we're doing on the new markets tax credit program side. Right now, we're still talking about new initiatives or things we want to do on the capacity building side. And I'll let Clint, if he wants to say a few words about how we've kind of, you know, wrapped up our recent initiatives and any learnings from that. But I know for new markets, we've been looking over the data and just noticed that there's been kind of a flat level of native CDE applicants. And we're looking to figure out what's the best technical assistance or capacity building we can provide on that end. And I think while it's focused on the new markets tax credit program, I think it'll be a great opportunity for all Native CDFIs or groups looking to serve Native communities to learn more about the program, as well as look more at their capacity and find ways to build that bench strength to deploy different resources. But I'll turn it over to Clint. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, just kind of the conclusion of the BNCSI.
Thanks, Jody. We don't have anything currently active in the pipeline. As Jody talked about, our more recent kind of efforts around TA and training have been in the planning for a program for the New Markets Tax Credit Program. Right now we've been real busy with running our regular funding rounds and wrapping up with RRP. But we got great feedback on our most recent BNCSI. So what I would say, what I would encourage everyone to do, if there's the interest and the demand out there, which I suspect there is based on the feedback and participation that we got just a couple of years ago, engage with us. Let us know what you'd like to see as far as the support that we can provide your organizations in order to help you be a better CDFI and better serve your communities. So I would say we don't have any active plans right now, but that doesn't mean we won't be developing something over the course of the next couple of years. Based on my experience, I will say there's a lot of effort that goes into building and designing the contracts to do these types of programs and initiatives. So it is something that whenever we do decide to move forward again in the future, it takes, there's several months lead time. So nothing's imminent, but like I said, it's something that's very important to us and something that we're always interested in providing more support out there for our CDFIs. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Awesome, Clint. Yeah, that I think that makes a lot of sense. Honestly, we were so busy deploying funds this year, like many of our CDFIs. I mean, we definitely received and gave a lot of technical assistance here at Oweesta, but it probably wouldn't have been the right time to do a massive industry technical assistance program like that. But I think as we, for some of us, it's been a catalyst for growth, right? The opportunities and financing that's become available and with COVID-19 and so, yeah, in the future, I think that could be really valuable. So that's good to know. We'll give you a shout out with our thoughts for sure. Looks like we've got some really great questions coming up here. It's getting harder to satisfy the growth demands, especially around the PG&Es. It's made us reconsider applying for an FA application. Can you speak to this?
Yeah, I can take that one. So we understand that the PG&Ms are the program goals and measures. There are 7 options that you can go, and there's no preference at all for any of the options. So if you want to develop a new development service that is perfectly reasonable, you do not have to increase volume. So there are options out there. And the way that the program goals and measures of the FA objectives were developed is they were directly tied to the statute. And so in order to make sure that we are protecting the FA program, we definitely need to make sure that we're tightly aligned with the statute. And that is also what happened in 2017 and is part of that revamp as that we talked about. The other thing that I want to mention is that in FA, there's also for PG&M 1.1 or the increased growth volume, there's an option to explain, but not for why you want to go below the floor. And that is perfectly acceptable. People get, you create a justification, COVID, for example, or some blip of extra money came in and that is not sustainable. All of those things are justifiable explanations. And hopefully you saw in the guidance this year that it was really highlighted, and we don't make a lot of changes to our guidance, but we made an extra effort in that particular area to beef that explanation up. There's also opportunity in the PRA. You will see if we make changes or if that's, an area that is really concerning, that we have always demonstrated our ability to be responsive to the industry, I think, as demonstrated by the change of the TA from 32 questions down to 10 if you're certified or 11 if you're not. So I want you to know that the wheels of government run slowly sometimes, but they do run and do change. And that has been demonstrated time and time again through our responsiveness. So if that is an issue or the options that I didn't lay out aren't clear, please let us know.
Okay, thank you so much, Amber. Yeah, I think we did have some questions from partners that were thinking through, oh my goodness, what does this mean for us in future years for increased volume with COVID? So it's nice to have that reminder there. And yeah, definitely. So thank you. We have some other couple ones here. Jody mentioned Noel Poyo. Has the CDFI been in contact with him about the role CDFIs could plan with implementing the Homeowner Assistance Fund, hopefully to include flexibility to use half funds to support new home buyer impact for COVID?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Noel, he is the new Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Office of Community Economic Development. So his umbrella includes, there's a lot under his umbrella, I should say, and the Homeowner Assistance Fund is one of them, in addition to the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, as well as the Emergency Capital Investment Program, which was the $9 billion under the stimulus funding. So the direct question was, have I been in touch with him about how CDFIs can participate in HAF? And we haven't had specific conversations. I talk to Noel a lot, usually about other things as it relates to the CDFI fund, but I have not spoken with him specifically on this. So I am happy to take back any feedback. I don't know if Oweesta wants to, gather some comments from your folks, or if the person that asks the question wants to reach out to me directly, I can facilitate either delivery of comments or set up a conversation. Maybe Noel can come and speak to Oweesta about its plans, but there's a whole separate group that's running HAF. And so I'll be sure to go back to Noel and mention that this has come up and that we should have more of a conversation. I know they're in early stages of some parts of the program, but it's a timely question. So thank you for that.
Awesome. And then I love it, Gary. Gary's taken advantage of his opportunity to ask questions. I love it. Go, Gary. Are there sources available to learn more about designated minority lending institutions?
So the minority lending institution designation is stated in the omnibus, and there isn't much in terms of additional resources or information to learn about what that is, because we're still crafting it. One of the key provisions, if you go back to the statute language, you'll see that it says accountability as defined by the CDFI Fund. So that's where we are now in the process of looking at how to define that accountability piece. It's our goal to go out with a request for comment on some of the things we're thinking about related to the accountability, but we're still working with Treasury and others to make sure that we are able to structure the comment in a way to solicit good feedback and then determine next steps. So stay tuned, Gary, for that one. We hope to be coming out with more information on it very soon.
Okay. So this is sort of our kind of last call for questions, but in that space, I wanted to just circle back with Clint, Amber, Jody. Is there anything else that we didn't get a chance to talk about that you're like, I really wanted to make sure that I shared about this, or keep your heads up for this, that we didn't get to talk about, that didn't come up organically through our questions?
Oh,
Go
go ahead,
ahead,
please.
Jody.
Glenn.
No,
No,
I was just
no,
gonna, I was just gonna say, for those of you who received notice, you should have received notice if you applied for an RRP award last week, either that you received an award or that your application that you didn't receive an award. If you hadn't, please let us know, submit a service request or shoot me an email. But we're working diligently to get our assistance agreements out, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, if not sooner, as Amber has stressed to me. So, just keep an eye out. You'll get notice whenever your assistance agreement is available for you. There shouldn't be really any surprises for those of you who put together the application. The PG&Ms are going to be really straightforward. So over the course of the next couple of weeks, you'll get your assistance agreement. Right now, assuming no last minute hitches, we're going to have a webinar on June 30th for folks to be able to ask some questions and get some answers about their assistance agreements once we get them out the door. And then as soon as you've received the agreement, had a chance to take a look at your PG&Ms and the general terms and conditions, it'll be eligible for you to sign, or it'll be available for you to sign electronically. And then the process of receiving funds will be analogous to our process for the FA and TA awards. So we go through a very short internal compliance review process anytime an organization signs a new assistance agreement. That usually takes a few days, maybe a week. And then once Amber signs the assistance agreement electronically, we typically hear from folks that they get the funds in their bank account within 5 to 10 days, if not sooner. So we ask that people give us a couple of weeks once the agreement's been signed, and then reach out to us via service request if they haven't received their money. So hopefully everyone will get a notice that their assistance agreement's available in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be able to get the money out the door in a rapid fashion.
Yeah, can I add two small points to that is get your certificate of good standing now. I know that some Native CDFIs are incorporated by their tribes, and that can also take a little bit of time. So just start with that now, because we're going to need that certificate of good standing to issue this award. The other thing is if you want to get a jump start on looking at what the assistance agreement looks like for RRP, it's on the website. You can look at that. The only thing that is going to be different about it is your individual PG&Ms. And for all Native CDFIs that indicated that they're Native CDFIs are will have the PG&M 1-2, which means that the 70% of the rapid response program award will need to be, or the equivalent amount of, will need to be deployed into a Native community or to a Native OTP. And so that is also all stipulated in the NOFAs and the presentations, but I just want to remind everybody here that those resources are already available on the website. Peruse them at your leisure, and get your certificates of good standing so we can process this. The other thing is that we might be a little bit slower considering there's 863 awards that I need to sign personally and generate, like we have to click the button 863 times. So it's just a volume issue as well. So be patient.
I love that. And
yeah, one more thing I'll add too. We also have a little slide deck up that kind of highlights some of the small differences that you'll see in between the RRP assistance agreement and the FA and TA assistance agreements. That'll be the basis of our Q&A webinar on the 30th, but we won't go over that full slide deck because we're going to leave a lot of time for the questions and answers. But that's a great starting point in addition to looking at the actual template assistance agreement that we've got posted. We've got some slides up there that might help you understand things a little bit better. And I would say the biggest difference, or a major difference that some of you may see and hopefully already know, but I'll reiterate the point, between the RRP program and our FA and TA awards is that the authorized activities or eligible uses of funds are a little bit of a hybrid between the FA and TA. So you're able to use the entire amount of the award to support your lending activities, close financial products, or use them for loan loss reserves, so on and so forth. But you'll also be able to use at least a certain percentage, or if you received a minimum award, the full amount on those TA activities to support your operations. So a lot of flexibility with these awards.
Yeah. So I know what a great facilitator I am, just like editorializing, but man, what a smartly designed program. I know you guys did that very quickly, but wow, really cool. Way for groups that would be worried about the PG&Ms having the $200,000 option. Oh, really well done, CDFI Fund. So very inclusive, raise the roof for the CDFI Fund for sure.
Thank you for that.
I did think something that I really wanted to make sure to ask, which was one of the things we've seen a lot with this year is, for some of our groups, oh my goodness, we've had, they've exploded as far as how much they've deployed and, have been able to mobilize really quickly in response to COVID. Others of our groups, they were shut down for 6 months and they were 2-people shops. And so I just want to, ask the question, one of the things that we've been asked a lot is how, I'm not going to make my PG&Ms. Is that a problem? With COVID, what is that going to affect? Is the CDFI Fund going to be mad at me? I'm always like, just call Clint, just call Amber, they'll take care of you. But I just want to ask that question on behalf of all those groups, maybe have a little anxiety around those past PG&Ms that had planned 8,000 trainings, but now we're not going to get to do them. What should they do?
I think we.
No, I was going to talk about the amendment process and let you and Clint, you and Amber kind of speak to it, but go ahead.
Thanks. So I would note that, in the past few months, things have started to blend together. So I can't tell you exactly how long it's been posted on our website, but for at least a few months, we have had kind of some updated, much more robust guidance on how to submit an amendment application, along with some forms that, basically should allow you to plug and play with your requested amendment. And, the amendment process is built into, our assistance agreements. There are specific provisions in there. Historically or typically, and this is the language you'll see in your assistance agreement, you need to request an amendment up to or at least 60 days prior to the effective date or before the end of a period of performance. That language is still effective, but we have, through our policy, implemented a lot more flexibility in response to COVID-19 pandemic. So we've taken advantage of some flexibility government-wide when it comes to grants and amendments, and we shortened that window, actually kind of expanded it in a way, I guess, where the amendment request just needs to come in at least 10 days in advance of the effective date or the end of the period of performance. Having said that, that's great. And, obviously we want things to be as flexible as possible. I would encourage anyone to reach out to us as far in advance as you can when it comes to considering an amendment, because the longer we've got to work through it with you, the more we can make sure that we kind of come to a reasonable solution that is effective for you and allows us to kind of preserve the integrity of our funding rounds. But I will say this one thing that a lot of organizations are worried about when they come talk to us is, how will this affect our ability to receive an award in the future? And I would say, from our perspective, we would much rather see an organization that stays on top of their PG&Ms, come in, act responsibly, submit an amendment request that fits within the parameters of our policy, than one that just kind of kicks the can down the road and then comes into compliance problems and then is trying to clean up things after the fact. So it's not something we view negatively. Obviously, we want organizations to be able to live up to the kind of projections that they place in their applications, but we've got a policy put in place that is designed to acknowledge the fact that things do change, and sometimes it's reasonable for a group to amend their assistance agreement.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to echo everything that Clint said. Is you have to tell us. You have to submit a service request. You have to start the conversation. We're not going to start the conversation for you, and you're not going to get in trouble if you amend, but you certainly are going to get in trouble if you run into compliance problems. And the PG&Ms are now so data driven that we do know when you come into compliance problems. So if there's any hesitation or doubt in your mind, you go to our website. There's guidance that says what we amend, what we don't. It has the COVID amendment in our guidance in there as well, but you have to start early.
I desperately hope that was one of the babes wanting to see what mom was up to.
That was correct.
I got my
Maybe the
3-year-old
four-year-old.
running around here too. I love it. Love COVID. It's been so fun though, getting to meet all of the babies in the CDFI sphere this year over Zoom. So love that. Thanks, Amber. Jody, did you have anything that you wanted to share?
Sure. I was just earlier when you were kind of opening it up, I was just going to kind of bring up the point about the other programs. You know, there are a lot of resources out there for the CDFI industry, not just housed at the CDFI Fund. There's the State Small Business Credit Initiative, which received $10.5 billion through the stimulus legislation. Like I mentioned, there is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, where CDFIs can be conduits for assisting rental people who are late on their rent and helping the states and localities get money out. And then there's the Homeowners Assistance Fund. And there will likely be other programs that aren't administered by the CDFI Fund that Native CDFIs can participate in. And you all know your communities, you see what happens every day. And so relying on your expertise and your connection is going to be important. So I'm happy to offer the CDFI Fund, me, Clint, Amber, as to help facilitate any questions or concerns you all have about other Treasury programs. We can put you in touch with the right people. We can send over questions. We can help you navigate who to talk to in some of these areas. And I do think, if you're paying attention to some of the infrastructure priorities, there's going to be a lot of resources at HUD for community facilities, infrastructure in general, broadband talks. There's a lot going around the government. So if there's a way that we can help you at least find the right person to talk to, because we probably won't be the right person all the time, we're happy to do that. And we're happy to make sure that Native CDFIs are part of the conversation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jody. What a great conversation. Thank you all so much for your time. This was wonderful. Any last minute comments before we sort of discuss our agenda tomorrow and say our goodbyes?
I just want to say thanks really quick. I guess that was maybe a call for folks to ask questions, but I want to say thanks for the great response we got on the RP application from Native CDFIs. As probably most of you know, the legislation just required a minimum of $25 million to go out to Native CDFIs, but we were able to more than double that. And when I say we, I really mean you guys, because you all had to apply. And I know I brainstormed with Crystal a little bit while the application period was going on to get some ideas on how we could make sure that every Native CDFI was aware of the program and we could get as high a participation as possible out there. So I think I talked to almost everyone out there that hadn't submitted an application in maybe the past 2 or 3 weeks of our open application period. So I think we can say that we either talked to every Native CDFI or they had already submitted an application by the time I started calling folks. So just want to say thanks for the effort, and hopefully the $54.6 million will help everyone make a tremendous impact in their community.
Totally. Well, and thank you, Clint, right? Having you, there was a lot flying, emails and programs and stuff going on. And so, the effort from you all to hit the pavement and make sure that we were all fully present for that opportunity. That's definitely you all too. So I think we can celebrate together that moment for sure. Wonderful. Well, on that sort of note, I will thank you all, and I will kind of close out our panel with an expression of gratitude. We appreciate so much the work that you've done. I know it's been a busy year for us all to respond to the needs in the communities that we've seen, and so gratitude to you all for working alongside us and with us in that space to mobilize to support our communities. So thank you all. And if you have questions that you think of at 7 o'clock tonight when you're eating supper, email Clint. That's my new song. That's my new song. Or reach out to us here at Oweesta. We can try to take care of you. All right.
Great. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Oweesta.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. For those of you who are still visiting today, we are so happy to sort of close out our day. What a wonderful day we had together, from starting the panels this morning about inequity and capital access to our wonderful breakouts this afternoon. I've heard that Rest with Sequoia Fund is a session not to be missed. So if you did miss that session, just a reminder, in your attendee hub, you can find recordings of the sessions. So if you had a breakout session that you went to and you were really sad that you missed the other one, you can find those in the attendee hub, those recorded sessions, so you can enjoy as much of the conference as you want there. Tomorrow we have another wonderful day planned. It's going to be fantastic. Starting in the morning, we're going to actually get to connect with our Canadian brothers and sisters and learn about the work of Aboriginal financial institutions, which, spoiler alert for tomorrow, are like Native CDFI equivalents in Canada. And we're going to get an opportunity to connect and learn from each other. So cool. We have some more breakout sessions with our day, and then we're actually going to get to do a state of the field and talk about sort of the impact of Native CDFIs in the face of COVID and all the amazing work that we've done there. So really, really awesome day. Also, just sort of to emotionally prepare us, tomorrow we are going to have a memoriam to sort of resonate and connect about the loss of some of our leaders this year in the Native CDFI movement, but also sort of the loss and struggles related to COVID-19 in Native communities and in the families that we are privileged to get to work with and for. So thank you all so much. I think, oh my goodness, we're giving you 5 minutes off early, but thank you for the beautiful and wonderful day.